Okay, I've been asked a few times about any quick tips I can share regarding kickstarting things where you feel like the red pill has left you completely on your own. I hope this helps. After you're unplugged and the cord is pulled out and you're on the floor, what are some of the things you can do to help get yourself up again? Because the red pill is finally an awake you realizing that you, in relation to the world, is important and not just helplessly struggling against the world. You face the prospect that your perception is at the center now, not the world's. It's a completely different way of looking at things in terms of personal responsibility for how you act, feel, and think. One's awakening to this simultaneously liberating yet foreign landscape has many men stuck and anxious, not knowing how to approach life now, even though one intuitively knows. They just know they're much consciously freer where they are now than they previously were, but they still feel as though they're lost without a compass. Okay, so I'll talk about what's worked for me personally, and you can decide whether any of what I have to say speaks to you. Again, this is the responsibility of taking your own path. I'm just being descriptive of mine, so then you can write your own prescription. Okay, the first thing is the Reeducation. Aside from the automatic reflex of going online for any kind of figurative band-aid to your pain after the red pill, I found what worked for me was remembering what I'd liberated myself from in the first place. I couldn't tolerate the Dionysian chaos of gynocentrism anymore. Thus, I quite sensibly knew my salvation would be in the opposing Apollonian direction, if you will. That is, the rational trajectory of order and self-discipline. And so I started reading those types of books more and more, books that offered real nutrition, not just empty gynocentric calories, and reading and absorbing more enlightened and intelligent books by people who have already passed through this doorway I was trying to navigate. They were giving me more answers than simply being frustrated with others online. What started building stability for me was reading philosophy, literature, and gaining a more stoic understanding of yourself as a man through the wisdom of all this material by people in the past that had generously been passed down through history. And now to me, what a gift, I thought. You know, I can't understand the left's willingness to burn the mentorship of the past like this, of generations of past intellectuals, when it could give perspective and help to so many. It's madness. Okay, first tip, talk well to yourself. This is so essential, guys. When you're in a dark place, the first thing you have to do is stop punishing yourself. Waking up to reality is often painful, but it is triply so if you flagellate yourself as well. The first thing I'd like you to realize is that the quality of your life is the quality of how you speak to yourself. Not how eloquently, but how you communicate first to yourself and then to others from that foundation. But if you keep putting yourself down internally, that is, you don't respect yourself, then how is anyone out there supposed to? You don't even stand up for you or care about you. So why would you expect the world, women, or the system out there to? I mean, in all seriousness, if you're constantly saying, I am nothing, then why would the world even see you, let alone respect you? I mean, you don't. So why should they? I often say, talk to yourself like you were talking to your best friend. What would you be saying to someone you cared about if they were you in this position? Think about how many men would die for their football team, their flag, their woman, their country, and every man would probably think this is right and noble, but they would never think this way for themselves, to give to themselves. You see, this is men's depression when they're unplugged. The male tool has no one to serve anymore. They don't know how to function unless they're sacrificing for another to get their fulfillment and validation. And make no mistake, letting your former false, servile self die when you took that red pill was you intuitively putting your life on the line finally for you, which is a big, noble step in respecting yourself for the first time, I would say. And so, once you are reborn after this sacrifice, I'd suggest not disrespecting that fragile newborn you who's trying to get up with its shaky legs by letting your former ego talk down to it. That old ego who's fighting to stay alive and leeching oxygen off your weak newborn self. Protect it. Change how you speak to yourself, gentlemen. Okay, this tip is basic. It's elementary. It's a basic fundamental, but bears repeating. Take care of your physical health. Whether part of your morning routine or not, whether it's a regimented gym routine or simple walks around your neighborhood, take care of your physical health in tandem with your mental health. One affects the other. Healthy mind, healthy body. Another tip, wake up early. While in this free yet fragile new state of red pill awareness, say, while you're developing new mental pathways of thought and enlightenment, one practical way to attain some structure for your new self to grow in is create simple, doable routines. The one that changed my life in terms of productivity was waking up early. The amount of things I get done by noon is amazing compared to previously. You see, years ago when I quit my job and girlfriend, I wiped everything clean. My rationale was I want to remain free now. I'm doing nothing for a while. And nothing is what I did. The only rule I gave myself was I'm not getting up with an alarm clock anymore. And I took a year off just pursuing my passions with no structure at all. It was relaxing and simple and cool, but also I felt flat. What I noticed over time was mentally, my acuity diminished. As I was going to bed at 4 or 5 in the morning and waking after midday sometimes, I was free but in a fog, and I didn't like seeing time pass as everything deteriorated. Even though I knew I was ostensibly free, I didn't feel alive or productive. It was only when I added structure that things changed. And the big thing that kickstarted me immediately was the structure of waking early each day to work on my pursuits. And whatever you want to take steps in doing, whether it's business, writing, art, exercise, walking, the best time I found to kickstart it is in the morning, because the benefits are that you set the alarm to wake on that time on purpose, to work on your interests and nothing else. Nothing's on TV. And no one's going to call you or interrupt you. And besides, you should have just stayed in bed if you were going to do nothing. And you know it. And also, everyone else is sleeping at this time, which gives you a motivation that you're ahead of everyone else's game. It's a great feeling of momentum and structure. And before any of you say it's too hard to get up early, I was like that too. It's not. It's actually easy. Look, whenever you usually go to bed, even if it's at 3 a.m., just force yourself to get up at 6 a.m. anyway, with only 3 hours of sleep that night, and you'll have that one bad night of sleep only, and your body will get used to the new cycle in the next night or two. Simple. Done. Your life is calibrated for the better immediately. This is probably the most encouraging and productive Kickstarter to going your own way that helped me. Waking hours earlier than you need to. The earlier the better, but get enough sleep. Just go to bed earlier. Next tip is what you might kickstart in the morning. These are my small morning victories. I don't know where I saw or read it, but I found this idea very beneficial. Just setting up very small and simple, doable yet productive tasks when you get up in the morning. For me, they're typically things like I make my bed, drink 2 glasses of water, followed by some form of exercise, even if it's for 5 minutes, and then make a tea or coffee while I journal and write down my thoughts. And sometimes I might have a cold shower if I really need it. The point is, you make them basic enough that there's no real excuse not to do them. And there's a minimum to wake up for. And then no matter what you do in the rest of the day, you'll always have accomplished something. And the point is, you're probably going to do a hell of a lot more than these basic things that you've done at the start of the day. Which brings me to one of the points I just mentioned, writing and journaling. I've always loved writing my thoughts down. So this has always helped me, and it's probably more subjective in my case. But as I mentioned in my previous video, the menu is not the meal, link below. Writing your thoughts down helps you get it all out cathartically, sure, but also serves 2 other very important purposes. 1, you release much of your ego on the page, leaving less of it inside you. And 2, Afterwards, you might be surprised or most likely shocked at how poorly you might sometimes think of yourself. Writing has always been a great clarifier for me. It reveals the real you the more you do it, the you want to be sometimes, as you get better with communicating on paper. And then it translates into your everyday life and imbues your actions and how you talk and the choices you make out in the world. The point is, you don't just keep it in your head, because your ego can easily win there when it's swimming in your head and you start believing what it's saying instead of determining who you actually are and wish to be once you reveal a little more on paper. Through writing, I discovered who I was and was not, and subsequently helped clarify who I should be. Another one is take a break. Don't treat self-actualization as some sort of militant boot camp exercise. You're a human being. Take a break once in a while when you feel the walls are closing in, even if it's grabbing a coffee on your own and reading the paper outside of your home, or taking your notebook and sketchbook along with you as you doodle on your own in some cafe. With a friend is even better if you can. Just take a break from your routine solitude. Take yourself out of your safe cage at home, for it often can feel like your tomb. Besides, getting out there, observing the world will give you perspective now, with your new eyes. It also gives you a lot of material to write about in your journal in terms of reflection. Finally, with a routine and healthier, more heightened sense of awareness, you'll find your language gets sharper, your thoughts are sharper, your self-esteem gets better. And then eventually, when you start to form concepts on your own, like you might see many of us content creators do, where you think, wow, that was a good way of looking at things. I wish I could think like that. And then you actually start to do that on your own, in your own mind. I think you can safely say that you've started to go down your own path. Anyway, I hope some of those tips helped. Later, gentlemen. If you appreciate my content and want to say thank you, you can donate via the links below. A massive thank you to recent donations from the people on screen now. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And finally, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified of my next videos. If you're not being notified, make sure my channel's icon in your subscription list is set to notify you properly. I've outlined how to check in the low bar. Thanks, guys.